Hey guys, so a quick update before we start the review. So starting next year, I will be going back to college, and I'll also be starting a different shift next year. So I'm letting you guys know in advance because the upload schedule is going to be very different come next year, around January. So basically, here's how it's going to work. So every month I will put out 2 videos. Only 2. One will be an episode of Like and Lunacy, and the other will be a review of a horror film that fits the mood of the month. For example, next month is January, and January is known for being extremely cold. So I put up the list of movies that you guys can vote for right now are horror movies that take place in a snowy setting. One thing that sucks is that I actually wanted to put the Until Dawn movie on that poll, but then I looked it up. Apparently the Until Dawn movie doesn't take place in a snowy setting. The Until Dawn movie doesn't take place in a snowy setting. What? But I digress. But yeah, this is why your guys' votes are important, because I will only have time to review one movie on the poll this next year. So whatever gets the top pick, I will review. So keep that in mind. Same thing goes for Like and Lunacy. But yeah, as for current updates, I am sad to say because I have so many Christmas horror films to review in December, I will not have time to do a new Like and Lunacy episode. Don't worry to everyone who voted on the Like and Lunacy episode 5 poll. Episode 5 still will come out. Just at the start of January. Like that really was a big issue I ran into this November, not really having the time to include a Like and Lunacy video on top of everything else. But yeah, so starting December next week, I'm going to be looking at Krampus, because that's what's won the December Christmas horror movie poll. And the way it will work is that the weeks next up, I'll be going down the list of runners-up in order. So I believe the original Black Christmas and Child's Play were tied. So after Krampus, I'll review the original Black Christmas, then the original Child's Play, and then we'll end it off with the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. But yeah, that's all I wanted to let you guys know. Thank you all for listening real quick. Enjoy the video. Hello, I'm Zach the Movie Fan. I know that usually I try to get something interesting on the background, but considering that we're 5 movies into this shit heap franchise, I doubt Paul W.S. Anderson gave a shit at this point, so why should I? Resident Evil Retribution is the 5th Resident Evil movie from writer and director Paul W.S. Anderson. Taking place sometime after the ending of Resident Evil Afterlife, Alice, played again by Mila Jovovich, wakes up in a mysterious Umbrella testing facility underneath the ocean, underneath the icy waters of Moscow in Russia. Alice tries to get out along with the surprise assistance of Albert Wesker, Ada 1, and a group of people who are going there to rescue her. Them being Barry Burton, Leon, and 2 characters I don't give a shit about. So Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at one of the Resident Evil movies. The reason why I like stopped reviewing them a while back is because my last Resident Evil movie review didn't get that many views. And don't get me wrong, views aren't the most important thing to me on this channel, but at the same time, if nobody's watching it, then why bother? Um, but the biggest reason why I stopped is because I was just genuinely running out of things to say. Like, all these movies really have the same problems. So what's even the point? But, screw it. But yeah, I hated the last movie in the series I watched. Resident Evil Afterlife was fucking atrocious. So I was dreading this one. I heard that people said that this one was at least better than Afterlife, but at the same time, people say that the first Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movie is the best one, and I disagree on that. So I was dreading this, and it wasn't as bad as Afterlife, but that's not saying much. In fact, I hate to admit it, but when this movie started, I was actually a little bit on board with it. I thought, the beginning of this movie, Mila Jovovich actually gives in a really good performance. And she always does her best in these films, but she really does good in the first, I'd say, maybe 20 minutes of this film. But yeah, in fact, even the action in the first 20 minutes is actually decent. I mean, the fight choreography is unique. I really like that one scene when Alice fights off a group of zombies using a Desert Eagle and this chain thing she found. I think it was like a bike chain. Or a bike lock. Which, that was genuinely cool. The first 20 minutes, I was a little bit on board with it. I wasn't loving it, because, it's a Resident Evil movie that has nothing to do with Resident Evil, but at least the action was decently shot, at least in the beginning. And even halfway through, I wasn't loving it, but I wasn't hating it either. Then halfway through the movie, when we got to the second half, this movie took a fucking nosedive. But okay, I will be fair. Let me talk about the few things I did like, because there really isn't a lot. Like I said, Mila Jovovich, great performance, as always. But that honestly pisses me off even more, because she is so above this material, and could be in something so much better than this shit. It genuinely pisses me off that because of these movies, the only kind of work Mila Jovovich can get nowadays is either being in shit like that god-awful Hellboy reboot starring David Harbour, or in that Monster Hunter movie that was also done by Anderson. I get that she's married to Paul W.S. Anderson, and I hear that he's a really nice guy, but I mean, come on, Mila. Can't you, at least sign on to a script that would have better use of your talents? I mean, all I'm asking is that you just branch out a bit. The zombie makeup this time around looks alright. I guess I will say that this is probably the best the zombie makeup looks out of the movie so far. I don't know if, Resident Evil The Final Chapter, they look better or not. Even the editing and camera work is, while it's still not great, it is a lot better than it was in Resident Evil Afterlife. There's not an over-excessive amount of slow-mo at stupid-as-shit moments. they're still slow-mo, but they at least fit a little bit better. Not by a lot, but a little bit. But yeah. Everybody else's acting in this movie is not that great. The only exception to this are the actors who play Albert Wesker and Ada Wong. Which, by the way, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that the actress that got to play Ada, I heard that she couldn't speak English very well, so they just got, like, the actress who voiced her in the original Resident Evil 4 to just dub over her voice. Which, honestly, I don't know how true that is. I didn't notice it at all. But then again, I also noticed that Ada doesn't talk a lot in this film. Maybe that's the reason. But even the moments where she did talk, I never noticed. But the actress playing Ada does a decent job. She at least looks the most like her video game counterpart. Same thing goes for Albert Wesker. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I find it so interesting that out of all of the Resident Evil characters that make it into these movies, the only one that Paul actually gives a shit about and does right is Albert Wesker. And don't get me wrong, Wesker is a great character and a great villain, but why is it that he is the only one where Anderson actually gives a shit and makes him like his video game counterpart, and actually at least makes him a main villain or an important character? Why is it only Wesker? Is it because he's a main villain in the games? I just don't know. I will give credit too. This movie definitely has the most interesting setting out of all these movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, the setting of this movie does not fit a Resident Evil film at all. In fact, honestly, this whole setting feels like something that would fit more in something like, say, a Metal Gear game. But it is a unique setting. It definitely looks cool. And while the idea of Umbrella testing its different viruses that they make in these simulations using clones, it's stupid, but it's not a terrible idea. And maybe in a different movie, this actually would be kind of a cool setting. But yeah, I guess the camera work is a lot better in this one compared to the last one. But that's generally about it. Everything else in this movie was shit. A lot of the issues with this movie are the same issues I've complained about in the other Resident Evil films. Most of the action is not very great. The CGI looks terrible. Although, admittedly, there are some times where the CGI looks alright. Probably the best looking CG in the film is the giant liquor monster thing, and that scene of the underwater facility getting drowned. But that's really about it. All the other CGI effects look about as terrible as you would expect at this point. But yeah, what genuinely pissed me off about this movie, though, is what it did is, how this movie handles, like, characters from the games. Besides Wesker and Ada, Leon and Barry Burton are in this movie. And they're both terrible in it. The actor that plays Barry looks nothing like Barry. Like, all they did was they literally just grabbed an actor who has a beard and a similar haircut and just slapped the Barry Burton outfit on him. Like, they couldn't even, like, at least dye his hair ginger or something like that to at least make him resemble the original character a little bit more. God damn this movie. The actor that plays Leon has the very similar issue. He at least looks a little bit more accurate compared to Barry, but still not all that great. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jill Valentine is also in this movie. A character who hasn't appeared in these movies since Resident Evil Apocalypse. And they pretty much just turn her into a generic henchwoman by pretty much just ripping off that mind control plot point from Resident Evil 5. Except like she's not even the outfit she wears doesn't look like that accurate. The jumpsuit she wore was black, not blue. I know that may seem like nitpicking, but Barry, the actor that plays Barry, not only does this guy not look like Barry, but he doesn't act like Barry at all. The only moment where this guy feels a little bit like Barry is when he sacrifices himself so everybody else can get out. That is the only time this actor feels like Barry Burton. Outside of that, it's really just the character in name only. What this movie did with Leon, though, really irked me. There are two lines from Leon that really pissed me off. One was, I don't know if I would risk so much to save one person. And when this little girl, there's this little girl that tags along. When this little girl gets kidnapped by the giant licker, Leon tells Alice to leave her. She is more important. The little girl is not important. Leon just said that a little girl's life was not important. And that he would probably not risk so much to save one person. To Paul W.S. Anderson, I would like to remind you that Leon is the same guy who risked his life to save as many people as possible in both the original Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. This guy literally risked his life to save Ashley in Resident Evil 4. He took on an entire army of villagers just to save this one person. And you have the balls to have Leon say that it would probably not risk so much to save one person. Fuck you, Anderson. That is a complete disrespect to this character. This really irks me, because Leon is one of my favorite characters in any of the Resident Evil games, and to see him done so goddamn poorly in this really fucking irks me fierce. Okay. Sorry. These movies are really pissing me off, if you can't tell. Okay. Another issue I have with the film is actually with its setting. The setting is a really cool idea. Again, it doesn't feel like it would fit in Resident Evil. It honestly feels more like something that would fit for something like Metal Gear, but it's a decent concept. But the movie doesn't take any advantage of it and doesn't do anything fun with it. I actually thought this because this movie randomly has the Lost Plagas, the parasitic enemies from Resident Evil 4. Except instead of dressing the Plagas characters, instead of dressing up the people infected with the Plagas, instead of dressing them up like the villagers from Resident Evil 4, they're now dressed up like a bunch of Russian soldiers from World War II. And they use guns. Wow, talk about completely missing everything that made the Plagas enemies from Resident Evil 4 interesting, Anderson. For fuck's sakes. But it was also at that point where I was wondering, how much more fun would this movie be if the training sections in this facility were locations from the other Resident Evil games. Seriously, really think about this. Let's look at this section where Leon, Barry, and a bunch of other characters I can't remember. Let's look back at that scene where they're fighting off against a bunch of people infected with Las Plagas. They fight them in the middle in what looks like a famous building in Moscow. I'm not familiar with Russian landmarks. I apologize, but like, I was thinking, how much more fun would this be if they fought the Plagas monsters in the actual village from Resident Evil 4, or in front of the castle, in front of the castle, or maybe on that island. Like, that would be really cool. I honestly think that would be fucking awesome. It would be a fun and subtle callback to the games. There's this one part of the training facility that takes place in Tokyo. I was wondering, why not make it look like Raccoon City from Resident Evil 2 and 3? That would be kind of cool. Maybe we could even have like a new version of Nemesis 2.0 or something show up. That would be kind of fun. If you're going to do something like this, at least take advantage of it and do some cool shit with it. But they don't. Instead, the movie feels like it takes more from other stuff. Like, there's a scene where we follow an Alice clone who's trying to protect this other clone little girl who's her daughter, I guess, and running through a suburban area going to hell, which is an obvious ripoff to the opening of the Dawn of the Dead remake. There's this whole setting, like I said, feels more like something out of Metal Gear Solid than Resident Evil. And there's this big martial art fight scene towards the end of the film that looks more like something out of Tekken. Why? Anderson, your movie is called Resident Evil. I should not be getting flashbacks to stuff like the Dawn of the Dead remake, Metal Gear Solid, and Tekken. Ugh. Also, dumb question. Why the hell would Umbrella even build a facility like this? Like, just to test their viruses so they could sell them to other countries? That makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. I mean, yes, the Umbrella Corporation would sell some of their shit off the black market. I think Resident Evil 5 and 6 established that. That's what Umbrella started to do after their stocks fell apart. Granted, though, it's been years since I played Resident Evil 5 and 6, and I haven't replayed them recently because I hate those games. But they would sell that shit to terrorist groups. Why would they try to sell them to other countries? And you seriously expect me to believe that Russia and China would look at this virus and think it was a good idea? I'm not going to act like Russia and China are run by the most smartest of individuals or the most morally respectful figures. But even all the leaders of these countries will look at that deal and tell them to fuck off. And please don't tell me that it's comparable to nuclear weapons or something like that, because that's different. Nuclear weapons you have more of a control over. You're not going to that shit is designed so you can't accidentally set that stuff off. This is a deadly, lethal virus that turns people into monsters, for fuck's sakes. Like, it's dumb. Also, this movie has a recap. This movie has a recap of what happened in the other movies, and Alice said that after the events of Resident Evil Apocalypse, that and they said, like, after the events of, I think, they said, like, after the events of the original Resident Evil movie, that the virus spreaded. No. No, another virus broke out in Raccoon City, and then that spread all over the world. Also, I think the recap also said that Umbrella was continuing their experiments on the zombies, which, again, I don't think that's entirely true. I believe Resident Evil Extinction established that Umbrella was actually trying to find a cure for the zombie virus. The only reason why they were experimenting on other zombies was because they were trying to figure out if a cure would work, but the movie doesn't mention that. It's like Anderson is legit forgetting what he himself wrote in the other movies. How are all 5 of these written by the same asshole, when they feel like they were written by completely different people? But yeah, is there anything else to talk about in this? No, I think that's it. Oh, the movie ends with them on top of the White House preparing to fight an army of zombies. Even though I already know that none of this will be followed up in the very next film, because that's how all these goddamn movies work. It's actually why I was surprised that this movie started off following up the events of the last movie. Because Resident Evil Afterlife really didn't do that very much at all. I mean, okay, well, they did, but I don't know. I'm fucking tired. I hate this movie. But yeah. So, final conclusion. It's better than Resident Evil Afterlife, but that's not saying much. This is still a piece of shit god-awful movie that completely misses what people like about Resident Evil. Even if you look at it as just a dumb, mindless action film, the characters suck. The CGI is shit at other times, and other times it's tolerable, I guess. Like, and the camera work and editing, while not terrible in this, I can still think of other action movies that will be more fun to watch. This was more tolerable, but that's not saying much. It's still shit. Resident Evil Retribution gets an F. I fucking hate this movie, and thank God there's only like 2 more of these I have to watch in the future. Technically 3, depending on when Zach Kreger's Resident Evil movie comes out. Ugh. So, Resident Evil Retribution. Have you guys seen it? What did you guys think of it? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like what you see here, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. That's all I got for today, guys. I'm Zach the Movie Fan, and if you excuse me, I'm going to watch an actual good movie. See you later.